Delete everything, he whispered frantically, clutching my phone. I stared at his face, suddenly seeing a stranger. The screen glowed between us, illuminating the unmistakable image of my sister straddling my fiancé. My hands trembled as I snatched back my phone, watching Jason's face drain of color. Tomorrow was supposed to be our wedding day. The venue was ready, paid for with my savings. My dress hung pristine in the closet, waiting for a bride who just discovered her groom had been sleeping with her sister for months. "Emily, I can explain," Jason stammered, reaching for me. His hand hovered in the air between us, afraid to touch me now that I knew. I stepped back, keeping my voice steady. "How long?" "It was just a mistake. One time." His eyes darted to the door, the window, anywhere but my face. I swiped to the next photo, then the next. Months of them. Different hotels. Different positions. My sister's unmistakable butterfly tattoo visible in most. "Caitlin knows I found these?" I asked, scrolling through the evidence of their betrayal. He nodded, swallowing hard. "I called her when you went to the bathroom. She wants to talk to you." My phone buzzed with my sister's name on the screen. I declined the call, watching it illuminate again immediately. 12 missed calls already. Too late for damage control. "Your bags are packed," I said, pointing to his suitcase I'd helpfully started filling once I found the photos. "Get out." "Emily, please, our wedding is tomorrow. 200 people, I'll handle the guests." My voice sounded foreign to my own ears, cold, detached. "You handle my sister." As he reached for his bags, I snapped another photo of his panicked face. "For my collection," I explained with a smile I didn't feel. For the first time tonight, real fear flickered across his features. The door closed behind him, and I collapsed onto our bed, my bed now, clutching the phone containing all the evidence. Tomorrow's wedding would still happen, just not in the way anyone expected. I hadn't slept. My eyes burned as I slipped into my wedding dress at dawn, hours before the ceremony. The white silk felt wrong against my skin now, but I zipped it up anyway, examining my reflection. I looked beautiful. Tragic. Perfect for what came next. My bridesmaid Vanessa arrived early to help with my makeup, her eyes nervous as she worked. "You knew," I said, watching her hands freeze mid-stroke with the mascara wand. "Emily, her eyes filled with tears. "I only found out last week. I wanted to tell you, but Caitlin said that she'd tell me herself." I finished for her. Vanessa nodded miserably. She swore it was over between them. "It's not," I said, opening my phone to show her the timestamp on the most recent photo. 2 days ago. "Oh God." She sat down heavily on the nearby chair. "What are you going to do?" I smiled, applying my own lipstick in a perfect crimson line. "Exactly what's expected. I'm going to walk down that aisle. But Jason will be there," I said confidently. "He has too much to lose. The business, our house, his reputation. He'll show up hoping I've decided to forgive him." Vanessa looked unconvinced, but didn't argue as she helped arrange my veil. My phone buzzed again, my mother, wondering why I wasn't answering Caitlin's calls. "Your sister is beside herself," Mom texted. "Whatever happened, you two need to work it out before the ceremony." I texted back, "You're right. Send her to my room right away." Just her. The knock came 15 minutes later. I opened the door to find Caitlin, her face streaked with tears, her bridesmaid dress wrinkled as though she'd slept in it. "Emily, please," she started. I pulled her inside and shut the door before she could wake the entire floor with her dramatics. "Save it." "You don't understand," she sobbed. "I never meant for it to happen. We were drunk that first time and then." "I don't care about the first time," I cut her off. "I care about all the times after that. I care that my wedding is in 4 hours and my fiancé and sister have been fucking behind my back for months." She flinched at my language. Sweet, proper Emily never cursed. "I love him," she whispered, as if that explained everything. "And I loved both of you." I turned to my dressing table, picking up the small USB drive I'd prepared overnight. "Here." She took it cautiously. "What's this?" "Insurance," I said, smoothing my dress. "I've collected every photo, every text between you two. If either of you tries to spin this as my fault when I walk down that aisle today, copies go to everyone. Mom, Dad, your boss, our entire family. Her face paled. You wouldn't. I've already scheduled the email. I showed her my phone timer, counting down to ceremony time. Be in that church, in your bridesmaid dress, smiling like nothing's wrong. Jason will be at the altar. And I'll be walking down that aisle. To marry him, she asked, confusion replacing her tears. I smiled. Just be there. The church was beautiful. White roses and lilies filled every corner, just as I'd planned over the past year. Guests filed in, oblivious to the drama unfolding behind the scenes. Through the window of the bridal suite, I watched Jason arrive, looking haggard but dressed in his tuxedo. My father knocked gently before entering. Ready, sweetheart? I nodded, taking his arm. More than you know. The music started. One by one, my bridesmaids walked the aisle, including Caitlin, her face a mask of perfect composure. Only the tremble in her hands betrayed her anxiety. Then the bridal march began. All eyes turned to me as the doors opened. I could see Jason at the altar, his fake smile firmly in place. Our guests saw a beautiful bride and a handsome groom about to pledge eternal love. I saw two traitors about to get exactly what they deserved. With each step, my resolve strengthened. My father squeezed my hand, mistaking my tension for nerves. He's a lucky man, he whispered. We'll see, I murmured back, my eyes locked on Jason's increasingly uncertain expression. When we reached the altar, my father kissed my cheek and stepped back. I handed my bouquet to Vanessa and turned to face not Jason, but our guests. Thank you all for coming, I said, my voice carrying clearly through the stunned silence that fell as I turned away from my groom. I'm sorry to say there won't be a wedding today. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Jason stepped forward, reaching for my arm. Emily, don't. I moved smoothly away from his grasp. I discovered yesterday that my fiancé and my sister have been having an affair for months. The silence transformed into shocked murmurs. Caitlin froze in place, her bouquet clutched to her chest like a shield. I have proof, I continued calmly, pulling out my phone. I considered sending it to all of you, but decided that would be cruel. Instead, I wanted to face you all and explain why I won't be marrying Jason today. My mother stood, her face ashen. Emily, please, this isn't the place. It's exactly the place, I countered. You've all traveled to witness our vows. You deserve to know the truth. I turned to Jason, whose face had gone from pale to crimson. You can speak now if you want to deny it. He opened his mouth, then closed it again, eyes darting to Caitlin. I nodded. That's what I thought. Walking to the center of the aisle, I addressed our guests directly. The reception is still paid for. The food is excellent, and I encourage you all to enjoy it. Consider it a celebration of truth rather than marriage. As murmurs turned to open conversation around me, I walked steadily back down the aisle alone. My parents hurried after me, followed by several relatives calling my name. I didn't stop until I reached the church entrance, where my best friend Claire waited with car keys in hand, exactly as we'd arranged when I called her at 3 a.m. Ready? She asked, ignoring the commotion behind me. Drive, I said, gathering my dress as I slid into the passenger seat. We pulled away as my family spilled out onto the church steps, their faces a mixture of shock, anger, and confusion. In the rearview mirror, I could see Jason and Caitlin standing apart, already separated by the scandal that would engulf them both. The cabin belonged to Claire's family, 3 hours from Chicago and blissfully isolated. I stepped onto the porch in jeans and a sweater, my wedding dress hanging limply in the closet inside. My phone had been silenced, though I could see the notifications piling up. Missed calls, texts, voicemails. They're losing their minds, Claire reported, scrolling through her own messages. Your mom says Caitlin is inconsolable. How tragic, I said dryly, sipping the hot chocolate she'd made. Jason's apparently been calling everyone, trying to explain. She looked up from her phone. He's saying it was just a mistake, that he loves you. Cheating for months isn't a mistake, I observed. It's a choice. Multiple choices, actually. Claire set her phone down. So what's next? I pulled out my own phone and opened it for the first time since leaving the church. Over 100 messages waited, but I ignored them, opening instead the folder of evidence I'd compiled. I'm not the first bride to be cheated on, I said, scrolling through the photos. But I might be the first to have documentation this thorough. Amid the photos of Jason and Caitlin were screenshots of financial records, our joint business account, the photography studio we'd built together over the past 3 years. A studio where I'd contributed 70% of the startup capital while being listed as a 40% owner. You're going after the business? Claire asked, watching me organize the files. I'm going after everything, I confirmed. The business, the house, the equipment. Even his precious vintage camera collection. I opened my email and typed a message to our business attorney, attaching selected photos and financial documents. Jason assumed I'd either forgive him or have an emotional breakdown. He never thought I'd be calculating. Ice cold, Claire said admiringly. But what about Caitlin? She's still your sister. I paused, the heaviness in my chest intensifying. That's complicated. I don't have an answer yet. My phone buzzed with a new message, not from Jason or my family, but from Vanessa. Everyone's gone from the reception except your parents and a few relatives. Jason left with Caitlin. They looked close. I showed Claire the message, feeling a strange calm settle over me. Well, that answers that question. They're actually together now? Claire looked disgusted. The day of your wedding? They deserve each other, I said with finality. Now I know exactly what I'm dealing with. I sent a response to Vanessa. Thank you for telling me. Pack up anything of mine from the bridal suite and keep it for now. I'll be in touch soon. Setting down my phone, I looked out at the trees surrounding the cabin. For the first time in 24 hours, I felt like I could breathe. You know what's strange? I said quietly. Part of me suspected something for months. Little things, Jason being protective of his phone, Caitlin avoiding eye contact. I ignored the signs because I didn't want to see them. Claire squeezed my hand. That's not strange, that's human. My phone lit up again, Jason calling for the 20th time today. I declined the call and blocked his number in one swift motion. What he doesn't realize, I continued, is that when we started the studio, I insisted on separate digital storage for my work. Every wedding I've shot, every client session, they're all backed up on drives he can't access. Claire's eyebrows rose. So you have the client list. And their contact information, contracts, and portfolios. I nodded. Half our clients are my personal connections anyway. The business won't survive without me. You've thought of everything. I shook my head. Not everything. I never thought my sister would betray me like this. The pain of that particular wound was still too raw to examine closely. Claire didn't press. Instead, she refilled our mugs and sat beside me on the porch swing. So we hide out here for a few days, then what? Then I go back and rebuild, I said simply. Not my relationship, my life. 3 days later, I returned to find my house locked with new keys and a security system I couldn't bypass. A petty move that only confirmed I'd made the right decision. I checked into a hotel and called my lawyer, who had already filed for an emergency injunction to prevent Jason from liquidating business assets. My email to clients explaining my separation from both the business and its co-founder had generated overwhelming support, with most requesting to follow me to whatever new venture I created. My parents had left a dozen increasingly frantic messages, culminating in a text from my father, "We need to talk as a family. Dinner tonight at our house, 7 p.m. I replied, I'll be there at 7. Coming alone and leaving alone. The family home looked the same as always, a comfortable suburban house where Caitlin and I had grown up. I parked on the street rather than the driveway, keeping my escape route clear. My mother opened the door before I could knock, pulling me into a hug I didn't return. Emily, thank God. We've been so worried. I stepped back. Is Caitlin here? She's in the dining room with your father, Mom said, her eyes pleading. She's devastated, Emily. We all are. Interesting definition of devastated, I remarked, following her inside. The dining room fell silent as I entered. My father stood, while Caitlin remained seated, her eyes red-rimmed but dry. The table was set for dinner, as though this were a normal family gathering. "Emily," Dad began awkwardly. "We're glad you came." "Let's skip the pleasantries," I said, remaining standing. "I'm here because you asked, not because I've forgiven anyone." Caitlin finally looked up. I'm so sorry. Where's Jason?" I interrupted. She blinked, caught off guard. "He's not here." "But you've seen him since the wedding," I pressed. Not a question, but a statement. The flush that spread across her cheeks was answer enough. "Right." I turned to my parents. "So you've invited me to dinner to reconcile with my sister, who is still seeing my ex-fiancé 3 days after our wedding was supposed to happen." "It's not like that," my mother protested weakly. "Then what is it like?" I demanded, finally allowing some emotion to crack through my composed exterior. "Explain it to me, because from where I'm standing, my sister slept with my fiancé for months, lied to my face about it, and is now continuing the relationship while everyone expects me to just get over it." My father sighed heavily. "No one expects that, Emily. But your sisters. Family. Whatever happened, what happened, I cut in, was betrayal. Not a mistake, not a moment of weakness. Months of deliberate deception from both of them." "I didn't mean to fall in love with him," Caitlin said quietly. The words hit me like a physical blow. "Love," I repeated. "You love him." She looked miserable but nodded. "And that justifies everything?" I asked, genuinely curious about her reasoning. "No, but," she started. "Did you love me?" I interrupted. "As your sister, did you love me at all while you were sleeping with the man I was going to marry?" Tears spilled down her cheeks. "Of course I did. I do." I reached into my bag and pulled out a manila envelope, tossing it onto the table. "Then explain this." My father picked it up cautiously. "What is it?" "Bank statements," I said as he examined the contents. "From our joint business account. Jason has been moving money, my money, into a separate account for the past 3 months. An account I just discovered is listed under both his name and Caitlin's." My mother gasped, while my father's expression darkened as he flipped through the pages. $50,000, I continued. Money we were supposed to be saving for business expansion. Now sitting in an account shared with my sister. Caitlin's face had gone white. "I didn't know, don't," I snapped. "The account was opened with both your signatures. Either you knew exactly what you were doing, or you signed documents without reading them, which makes you an idiot as well as a thief." My father's hands shook as he set down the papers. "Caitlin, is this true?" "He said it was for our future," she whispered. "That he was leaving Emily anyway, and we needed security." The silence that followed was deafening. My mother had tears streaming down her face, while my father looked like he'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes. "So there it is," I said quietly. "While I was planning our wedding, my fiancé and my sister were planning their life together, funded by my money." I turned to leave, my purpose accomplished. "Emily, wait," my father called. "What can we do?" I paused at the doorway. "Nothing. I've already contacted the bank and my lawyer. Jason will be facing theft charges by morning, and Caitlin will be implicated as well." Caitlin stood, panic clear on her face. "You can't, I didn't understand what I was signing." "Then you should have asked your sister, the photographer, not your sister's fiancé," I replied coldly. "I'm sure the police will be very interested in your version of events." "We're family," my mother pleaded. "We can work this out without involving the authorities." I looked at each of them in turn, my devastated parents, my pale, frightened sister. Family doesn't steal from family. Family doesn't lie and betray and expect forgiveness as a birthright. With that, I walked out, ignoring their calls behind me. In my car, I sat for a moment, hands gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. Then I pulled out my phone and made the call I'd been putting off. "Detective Ramirez? This is Emily Carter. I'd like to file a formal complaint about financial fraud." Over the next 2 weeks, the situation exploded exactly as I'd expected. Jason was arrested, then released on bail. Caitlin avoided charges only because I ultimately declined to pursue them against her, my one concession to family ties. The business was frozen pending legal proceedings, but most clients had already committed to following me once I established my new studio. My parents tried daily to mediate, their messages oscillating between support for me and pleas on Caitlin's behalf. I'd moved into a small apartment and was setting up my equipment when the knock came at my door. Through the peephole, I saw Caitlin standing alone in the hallway, looking smaller than I remembered. Against my better judgment, I opened the door. "How did you find me?" I asked, not inviting her in. "Claire," she admitted. I begged her. She made me promise I wasn't here to make excuses. I waited silently. "I'm not," Caitlin continued, fidgeting with her purse strap. I wanted you to know I broke it off with Jason." "Congratulations on doing the bare minimum," I replied, unmoved. 3 weeks too late. She winced. "I deserve that. I deserve all of it. But I'm here because I need to tell you something important, and then I'll leave you alone if that's what you want." Despite myself, curiosity stirred. "What is it?" "I'm pregnant," she said, the words rushing out. 8 weeks. It's Jason's. The world seemed to tilt beneath my feet. 8 weeks meant she had been pregnant at my wedding, pregnant with my fiancé's child while wearing her bridesmaid dress. "I see," I managed, working to keep my expression neutral. "I'm not asking for anything," she hurried to add. "I just thought you should hear it from me before someone else told you. I'm moving to Mom and Dad's for now." I nodded mechanically, unable to form a response that wouldn't shatter the fragile composure I'd maintained. "I know you'll never forgive me," Caitlin said, tears welling in her eyes. "I don't deserve it. But I needed you to know I understand now what I've done. Not just to you and Jason, but to our family, to this baby. Why tell me at all?" I finally asked. "You could have disappeared with your secret." She looked directly at me for the first time. "Because you deserve the truth. All of it. No more lies." I considered closing the door in her face. The impulse was strong, almost overwhelming. Instead, I stepped back. "You have 10 minutes, I said. Then I need you to leave." She entered cautiously, perching on the edge of my sofa as though afraid to settle in. I remained standing. "Jason doesn't know yet," she said, staring at her hands. "After you filed charges, he changed. Started blaming me for everything, saying I seduced him, that I ruined his life." "Sounds familiar," I commented dryly. She nodded. "I was so stupid, Em. I told myself it was love, but it was just, I don't know, excitement? Forbidden fruit? I was jealous of you, your talent, your business, your life. Then Jason started paying attention to me, making me feel special." "Spare me the details," I cut in, checking my watch. 7 minutes left. "The point is, I see him clearly now," she continued. "He never loved either of us. He used me to hurt you, and he used both of us for money." I leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "You're just realizing this now?" "I'm slow," she said with a sad attempt at a smile. "But yes, when they took him away in handcuffs, all he cared about was who would bail him out. Not you, not me, not." She placed a hand on her still flat stomach. Despite everything, I felt a flicker of sympathy, not for my sister, but for the innocent child who would be born into this mess. "What will you do?" I asked, my voice softer than intended. "Keep it," she said without hesitation. "Raise it alone. Try to be better than I've been." The silence stretched between us, years of sisterhood and recent betrayal creating an impossible gulf. "Your time's up," I said eventually. She nodded, rising to leave. At the door, she paused. "I know it doesn't change anything, but I am sorry, Emily. Truly." I didn't answer, just watched as she walked away down the hallway. When the door closed, I sank onto the sofa, overwhelmed by the final revelation in a month of life-altering discoveries. My phone buzzed, a message from my lawyer. Settlement offer from Jason. Wants to avoid trial. Details attached. I opened the document, scanning the terms. He was offering to return the stolen money and transfer full ownership of the business to me in exchange for dropping criminal charges. The coward's way out. "Of course." I typed my response. "Accept the business transfer and financial restitution. Maintain the criminal charges." Some things couldn't be settled with money. Some betrayals demanded consequences beyond negotiation. Later that night, I set up my tripod and camera in my new living room. For the first time in weeks, I turned the lens on myself, capturing my own image against the bare walls of my new beginning. In the photos, I saw someone I barely recognized, stronger, harder, but somehow more authentic than the smiling bride who had existed in a reality built on lies. I selected the best image and posted it to my professional page with a simple caption, "Emily Carter Photography. Now booking as an independent artist." The first comment appeared almost immediately, a former client. "So glad to see you back. When can I schedule my daughter's senior portraits?" I smiled, feeling something loosen in my chest. This was the first day of my new life. Not defined by betrayal or revenge, but by the path I chose for myself. As night fell, I closed my laptop and walked to the window, looking out at the Chicago skyline glittering against the dark sky. Behind me, the empty apartment waited to be filled with new memories, new work, new purpose. My phone buzzed one last time, my father. "We love you, Emily. Whatever you need, whenever you're ready." I didn't respond, not yet. Some bridges couldn't be rebuilt overnight. Some wounds needed time to heal before they could even be properly examined. But for the first time since finding those photos, I felt something like hope. Not for reconciliation or forgiveness, but for myself, my future, my career, my happiness separate from the people who had tried to destroy it. I took a deep breath and turned away from the window. Tomorrow would be another day in this new life. Mine alone, on my terms. Was I right to walk away from my family? Should I have tried harder to forgive my sister, knowing she's carrying my almost niece or nephew? The waters of betrayal run deep, but family ties run deeper. What would you have done in my place?